Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Coding on Swiboe, the next generation text editor. What do we have as top of the show business today? Just something tiny. One pull request I did yesterday, which updates our code to use the latest Mayo version and also fixes some new warnings that came up with recent Rust nightlies. And basically, the most important change here is that we actually fixed the revision of Mayo that we are using. We didn't do that before. So it could be that changes in Mayo were actually breaking our code. And that's, of course, not great. Okay, what did we do yesterday? I think we did something very fun yesterday. We actually wrote the first useful Python RPC that we did. What did it do? It was actually it called through to the list files RPC, which recursively streams contents of files from a subdirectory, and it actually filters the entries from those streamed values and only lists those that are like ending with .rust or .toml, and then streams those values on. So basically, it is a filter for the list files RPC, which only leaves in files that end with .rs or .toml. And we wired up the desktop to the terminal GUI to actually use that, and it did work. So let's see if it still works. Should be. And then once we verified that it still works, I think I would like to start today with a little bit of cleanup. Okay, let's see. Our test file runs, so the RPC is registered, and if I now press Ctrl T, then you can see that actually our RPC gets called, it does some work, and you can see that in fact we are only listing 2 files instead of the hundreds of files that are actually in the subdirectory. So it works. Great. Really nice. Yeah, let's look at some cleanups. So being in the correct subdirectory, which I am, C client, I'm now grabbing for to do. And we have a couple of to-dos that we actually took care of already. So a to-do in my mind is always something that needs to be done eventually, but it's not as bad as a no-com. A no-com means this code is sloppy and broken, but we're outlining and therefore we accept it for now. So let's start with the to-dos because I believe we handled a bunch of these. So we handle streaming RPCs. Yes, we just proven that because we implemented one. And down here, what does it say? Look into getting results back. We also have that, right? We get the call results now back from our RPC context. And unfortunately, though, we only get it, like we can only unpack the result value if it is okay. So if it is okay, we can actually call RPC result unpack on it and unwrap on it, and then we get back the contained correct value. But unfortunately, if it is an error, we don't have an API yet to deal with that. So let's change that and say return also error code errors from RPCs, not only okay values. And then down here we have this to do, the client should complain if the same RPC is registered twice. I still think that's correct, and we didn't look into that. And then we have a couple of no-coms, and a bunch of them we can actually address right now too. So what's this one all about? Rename RPC context to either client context or server context, and that is like perfectly correct because we're dealing with client context and server context. RPC context is just not precise enough. So in this here actually RPC context is a pointer context, right? So if I change this here to Swiboe RPC context, that should be then Swiboe client context, wait, yes. And down here, that is receive, that is also client context receive. Receive, wait, that is actually not RPC context at all. That should be server context eventually. And here we have client context wait and server context finish is taking a server context, and server context is then no longer valid. Cool. And of course we have to do the same over here. In the function names we have RPC context here. Hey, good morning parts. RPC context must be client context. Same here. And that should be it. That should be it. So here we could also be more precise and say that is also a client context, right? Okay, very nice, very nice. So a little bit more cleanups than we did. And what else do we have as no comms here? Look into returning errors from RPCs, not only successes. I feel like I just wrote exactly the same in a to-do. That's this to-do, so this to-do can go away. Okay, so only one no comm in the Python code. And what do we have in here? Error handling, error handling, error handling, error handling, error handling, error handling. Add support for unwrapping errors. That is also the same no comm as the one we have on the left. And some documentation issues and error handling. So it seems like our most... so we have one more feature that we need to implement, which is this one, looking into returning errors from RPCs, so that a caller of an RPC can actually look at the errors that are returned. And inside of our C library, we also have to, we have to come up with a way of actually doing some sort of internal error handling, right? Returning error codes for all those function calls to signal to the C API if something actually is broken. So I'm not sure what I want to do today. Actually, you know what? I think I actually want to move this towards something that is testable. So instead of having a test file and the C library sitting here, I would like to have something that has a runnable unit test file that actually uses the Python unit testing framework to check individual tests. So we postpone both the feature and the error handling for now and instead do some refactoring to move towards that. So the first thing that immediately comes to mind here is that this load library call is actually hard coding where the library can be found, and one of the big issues here is that it's even hard coding that the library is a dylib. So that means if you're on Linux where this will be an SO file, this code will actually fail. So how can we make that a little more modular? And for that, we pull up our trusty Python documentation, Python sheep types. Here we go. And I would like to know about the load library call. Great, that one is not documented. Really? So what does it say here? You load libraries by accessing them as attributes of these objects. CDLL loads libraries which exports functions using the standard blah 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 blah. Windows does append the usual .dll file suffix automatically. On Linux it is required to specify the file name including the extension to load a library, so attribute access cannot be used to load libraries. Okay. That doesn't really help. Load a shared library into the process and return it. This method always returns a new instance of the library. Also doesn't help. Well, all of this doesn't help. So we cannot rely on the documentation. So we have to test it. So for example, what happens if I don't, like if I had lib Swiboe sitting somewhere in my path? So for example, in user lib, would it be enough to not give a path and just say like please load lib Swiboe, like something like this? Let's try that real quick. So if I run it like this, I would expect that it throws some kind of error. Yes. So if I now copy target debug lib Swiboe, and we copy that to user lib, we'll probably have to be sudo for that. And now we try it, then it says, cool, that seems to have worked. But of course I didn't rebuild, so the renames we just didn't show up. Oh, I have to copy it again. Yeah, perfect. That seems to be working actually. Now I'm interested if it also works if I if I don't add in the extension here, like so. And that is not working. So basically what that means is that we have something like import platform, which gives us access to data about the platforms we're running on. So import platform. Platform is, in our case, platform release string system maybe? What might system be? System is Darwin. I think that's probably what we want. Yeah. What else do we have? Architecture, who cares? libc version, who cares? Really, machine, what is machine? Aha. We don't really care about that either. We have a node, we have a OS. I think OS is probably what that is now. What is OS? Oh, that's just standard OS. Okay, that's the Python OS module. That is not helpful. Python branch, Python build, yeah. Python compiler, revision, regular expression, platform release. What is that? Whatever. System maybe? Yeah. Yeah, let's stick with that. So basically what we would like to have is something like the library name is a constant here. Library name is a constant, and we do something like if platform dot system is Darwin, then the library name is this one. If platform system is, yeah, how is it called under Linux? So I just connect real quick to my Linux hosted machine, and here we do the same thing again. Maybe eventually. It's not the fastest machine. Import platform and platform system. That should be Linux, right? Please, please. Yes. Okay. Okay. So disconnect, new terminal. Otherwise, if it is Linux, then the library name will actually be libswiboe.so. And that is all well and good if the library is actually installed, which, by the way, I should probably delete the file that I created in userlib. Swiboe. That is all well and good if Swiboe is actually installed. But if Swiboe is not installed, then we actually have to override this configuration somehow so that we can, for example, for testing, test against a fresh version. So first here in the else, we actually we raise a runtime error and say lib Swiboe does not work. Or you know what? Actually, that is probably a little too narrow, right? Because this will just work fine on FreeBSD or something like that. But the system is of course then not Linux. So maybe we do something like this, else platform system. Maybe just we do it like this. Like we assume we're either on macOS or on some Unix. It's not really great, but let's add a to do. This will not work. Or this needs extending for Windows. Let's do it like this. Nope, this one we actually want, and here we add the library name. And actually what I would like to have is that I can set a environment variable or something so that I can actually define the library name somehow. So I probably need something like os get_env, right? Key with a default value, so we could actually do something like if os get_env Swiboe lib, let's call it Swiboe library, no abbreviations. And what happens if we just don't define a default? We just get none back. So basically we could do it just like this, right? That is a good solution. We say, well, we get this environment variable, and then we can say if library name is none, we can do all of this stuff. And then we should be good. Basically, what I would expect now if we run our test, that it will not work because it cannot find the library, right? And then we can say something like Swiboe library, and that is then target debug lib swiboe.dlib, and now it works again. So this seems fine to me. Okay, great. Now we're going ahead and we actually let's close the Rust file for a moment, and we make a new Python file, and we call this Python file Swiboe, and this will actually contain the core. Basically we copy everything over, right? And then we remove all of the logic that is in here. So like this stuff, this stuff, this stuff, this all goes away. And now this is actually our Swiboe this is now our Swiboe module, right? And then over here, instead of basically here we do exactly the inverse thing, we delete everything but the logic, and we say here from Swiboe import Swiboe, like so. And then we have a ton of unused stuff, I guess, right? We're not using C types anymore. We're not using OS and platform. And then we could actually wrap this in a main function just to be a little more clean. And move this over, this one also. And this actually is now Swiboe RPC callback. Interesting that this actually works. Oh no, it doesn't actually work. Ah, that's really unfortunate. How to go about this though? How to make that really nice? So the problem is now, of course, that our module name is Swiboe, but also the library name is called Swiboe. So maybe we should rename this to DLL or so. Library. Let's go with library. And then here we actually from Swiboe we import the library. And we also import Swiboe. Basically we do this here, right? We import Swiboe and we also import the library. And no module named library module Swiboe. No, that's not correct. That should be fine. And the problem is here with this RPC, and this RPC is actually not library RPC, that is Swiboe RPC, right? Seems like we nailed it because the code is now crashing, so it must be working. Let's run the terminal GUI and verify. Oh, we're not in the terminal GUI directory. Okay, let's run verify. Seems like it's not working anymore. Interesting. So apparently something got messed up. Of course something got messed up because I'm not calling main anywhere. So we want something like this. And now we try again. Now it works again. Okay, so this refactoring was successful. Let's add this file actually to our Git repository. And now I would like to change this one up to look more like a unit test file. And I really don't quite understand, don't quite remember how that works. I remember that we need something like import unit test here, right? And then we also need something like the actual, like I mean for all of our tests we actually need a server running, but the question is, or actually there's no question to be asked there. We actually want every single test to bring up their own server so that each test can run, like tests can run in parallel, and also they can run independently of each other. And in Rust we already have a library that helps us doing that. I'm not sure if it's worthwhile wrapping that library or if the code is so short that we can just like redo it in Python. For now, let's just assume that actually the server runs. So we would like to have a unit test. Time to bring over the documentation again. Python unit test. And great, that's precisely what I wanted. Just a very short snippet of how that looks. So let's copy and paste that. So this goes to the bottom. We have unit test main. And then we have a test class, and that has various tests. When I run this, does that work? Of course not, but like so, it actually works. Great. And so what do we want to do? We want to have individual tests, so we can actually start out with test new RPC. And what does this do? It will be essentially this part of the code, something like this, right? We basically we have a function that we call callback, and that takes an RPC context or server context actually, and it takes arguments. And all it does is actually calling these two things, right? Swiboe client, RPC, okay. So we create a success thingy with a JSON string in there, which is not null, none, but null. And then we call the server context finish on that. That's basically all the callback needs to do. So I mean, if we don't even call the callback ever, then we don't even need that. But yeah, one thing at a time. So if we call, first we actually need a client too, right? We need to create a client up here, and this client, somehow this indentation feels weird, right? This should be 4, and this should be 4, 2, and all of these then should also be 4. Something like this. We have a client, or maybe let's just start here, right? We say we have a simple test that does nothing but connecting test, connect, and disconnect. Very simple. Turns out that works. Great. Second test will be test create RPC. And we actually, the function is called new RPC, so we should stick to that. And of course, that also has to connect and disconnect. And it also needs to call this stuff around here. And we actually need those two. But actually the callback doesn't need to do anything useful because we never call it. And that works too. And now let's actually call an RPC. Def test call RPC. And this will connect, of course. And oh, just a moment, I'll be right back. Back again. Sorry, my vacuum started cleaning the house, which is nice but very noisy, so I had to close the door. What do I want to do? I wanted to call an RPC. So first, before you can call an RPC, you have to create an RPC, of course. And so we have an RPC callback here. We created this like so, but here we actually now have to do something useful, something like creating a OK result. Test call RPC, like let's call it test call successful RPC. And instead of a null, we actually give it a useful JSON value. Bloop is foo, like so, maybe. And we create the callback, and the callback we just call test.test. And now we need a second client that actually calls this. So this client is the serving client. Then we need a second client. And this client is, well, that's correct, it's connecting to the same server. But now this client actually needs to call, so we have library Swiboe client call RPC, and this takes the client and the name of the RPC, and it takes some arguments which can be null in our case, and that gives us a client context back, and now we probably want to wait on this client context waits, because it's not a streaming RPC, so something like this. And now we want to unwrap this call result, because we expect it to be okay, but actually we should probably state that we expect that. Something like self assert true, library Swiboe RPC result is okay, call result, right? And then we unwrap this one, and then we have a JSON blob, and this JSON blob should of course be this JSON here, right? So basically we do something like golden return value. We do that up here, and we just make a Python dictionary that contains this blue foo blub thingy. So the arguments that we want to return, and in here we can just say, well, that is actually JSON dump to string the golden return. And here we unwrap that, and then we want like to say we assert that equal that the golden return is actually the JSON load string from this JSON blob. Right. Once we're done though, we want to actually disconnect from the serving client. We want to disconnect the serving client, and we also want to connect the regular client, right? The one we stopped using here. And let's see if this test works. And it is unhappy because it says that a ASCII object is not a Unicode object. Wait, what is weird? What is weird about this? Something is weird about this. So we get back a JSON blob here, and the JSON blob, it's like even if we unwrap this JSON blob, it is still just a string. Seems like we actually found a true bug here, right? Because the JSON blob we get back, that is definitely a string object. So I believe that our RPC result unwrap is probably incorrectly implemented. It returns a const char pointer, that is correct, and we actually, what do we get back? We get an RPC result back, which we unwrap. Yeah, and the RPC result, if we unwrap that, that gives us a Serde object back, right? If we look into this, we have a client RPC client here in the client context. No, it's in RPC.rust, right? Here. Where's the unwrap one? That gives us a Serde value back, right? That is what I expect. So we get a Serde value back here. This is a Serde value, and then we encode this Serde value into a string. That is interesting. Maybe the bug is not here, but actually where we wrap the value up. Oh, we need to build first. So the JSON value is already a string. So our RPC call is already returning the wrong thing. And then I believe it's probably in this function call where we wrap this one up. No, that seems correct. Maybe it is in the context finish. In the context finish, we already get an RPC result and we're not doing anything with it anymore. So that should actually also be correct. I'm confused. Let's output the RPC result here. So the RPC result, that is not useful. That is absolutely not useful. Let's output the result then. Right, I don't really care what pointer value that is. I would like to know about the content. Okay, and it says the result is okay, but the result is already a string, right? So inside of this finish call, so this call result is already a string. So it must be in this function here, Swiboe RPC OK. That gives us a, oh, that's it. That is the problem. So actually here we call RPC result success, and the success function here is defined to take a serializable object, and then this serializable object is actually encoded to be a value. So we will take the string, and the string is actually, no, see, that's just, it's not correct. Here actually we would like to have a JSON value object, and for this JSON value object we basically only say that is a asserted JSON object and that comes from a string. Something like this. JSON string. Like so, maybe. And yeah, that is asserted JSON value. And we unwrap that, or not unwrap, but expect cbuff was not a valid JSON object. Something like that. And now down here we actually just say no, that is a result object and it is okay, and it takes the JSON value and owns it. And now let's see where we're going. Cargo build. Unresolved name from string, so it is called from str, and then it takes this as a reference. Perfect. So that works. Okay, I think I'll cut the stream here. Let's add a bunch of no-coms though what we need to look into here. So first, all of these tests should bring up the Swiboe server themselves so that we can run tests in isolation and parallel, right? This is something that we need to look into. And then all of these hard-coded values here go away. And one more thing is the Swiboe library environment target. I would like to pass that as some sort of flag on the command line. Maybe make a Swiboe library passable on the command line for the test runner. Okay, and so far so good. And this main function eventually needs to go away, but I want to keep it around to copy and paste from it for a while longer. Delete main function. Perfect. Let's cut the stream here. I'll stick around as always for 5 more minutes for questions on stream if there are any. And thanks for watching already. So what did we do today? We started on Python testing of the core library. And of course we also fixed a bug in Swiboe RPC, okay, and we did minor cleanups. Great, so let's push that and go to GitHub real quick. Figure out, so this is the commit we worked on today. Okay. Okay, that's fine. That is rejected because this branch has changed. But actually our work has been pushed. Okay, great. So there are no questions in chat. So let's cut the stream. Thanks for watching, and I talk to you people on Monday. Bye.